Today is the day I want to talk to you about the importance of having passion in your life. Sometimes what happens is we get to a spot in our life and we just sort of, I think the phrase is we just mail it in. You know, we just say, all right, I'm going to hit cruise control, autopilot, and just, pay the bills or do the job or finish the kids getting in school or whatever, and then that's it. But I believe that God made you and made me to live our life with passion. And passion's a funny thing. Energy is a funny thing if you think about it. Paul writes to Timothy, we think it's Paul's last letter, 2 Timothy. In the first chapter, he tells Timothy, stir up, or fan into flame the gift of God that is within you. So think about this. You have stuff in you, and it can dwindle and die, or you can stir it or fan it. So think of a campfire. If you're making a little campfire and you sit around and you're talking, after a while it starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and the next thing you know, you just have this little pile of embers. But if you take a stick and you stir it, or you take a fan and you fan it, the next thing you know, that same little pile all of a sudden goes what? You can almost anticipate it. Poof, there's the fire. Today, I'm the poker, all right? I'm going to poke at you until you get the fire going back again. You need to put some fan into that flame. Paul says, stir it up. By the way, the end of this letter, Paul writes in 2 Timothy, he says, I fought the good fight. I finished the race. He says he's near the end of his race. And what you can sense from Paul by using these metaphors of boxing and of running is he's putting every ounce of passion that he has into every day of his life. Isn't life better when you live it with enthusiasm? Or just get up and, another day, how horrible, how bad is it going to be today? Or, I have today. Thank God I have today. Charlie woke up today at 5 a.m. Actually, check that. She woke up at 4. I just pleaded with God, please, God, put her back to sleep. And I got her back to sleep, but she woke up at 5, ready to go. Full chatty mode. You might know what I'm talking about? Like, not crabby, full chatty mode, ready to go. This is how I want you to wake up. Full chatty mode, ready to go. This is the day, the psalm says, the Lord has made, right? Let us rejoice. Let's be happy about it. Let's live with enthusiasm. So, energy. Have you ever noticed you can be doing something that you don't like and feel so completely drained of energy? Oh, how long is this going to go on? There's a lot of things that I love doing with Charlie, of course, but yesterday I about had my fill of playing princess. We were at the pool, there were other people there, and she's like, Daddy, do you want to be a princess? Really loud, you know what I mean? And so we did it. I played princess. I put a little crown on. She put a crown on, the little diving rings that we found in the pool, and we're putting them on, and they keep falling off. And we did it over and over, and I felt completely drained. Anybody with me? Have you ever done something that you love doing, and you didn't think about time? In fact, you were doing it, and you realized you missed a meal and didn't even think about it. Truth be told, if you've ever been passionately engrossed in something, you can do it and miss 2 meals and not even think about it. And we went through, 4 months of dating, and all you thought about, or dieting, and that too. But anyway, all you could think about was food and what to eat and what not to eat, and you're not supposed to think about food. But if you got passionate, involved in something, you don't even think about it. The time goes by. Oh, I forgot to eat. What is it? It seems like Energy, passion is something, it's not just external, it's not just something that we plug into so we can have lights, but passion and energy is something actually internal to us. Think of it this way. You're young, you're a teenager, and you finally fell in love, right? And they called you one night and you were head over heels, and you're just going into college, and she says to you, I'm not feeling it. All of a sudden, it sucked life out of you. It's weird. You can say, oh, that's stupid, that's silly, you should get over it, but everybody's experienced it. You just go. The next thing you know, you wake up in the morning, you don't really want to get up. You don't really want to eat, you don't want to cook. You used to love to cook, now you just order pizza. You eat half of it, the box is laying there. Next day you order another pizza. 3 weeks later, there's pizza boxes everywhere. You never get out of bed. Your friends call you. Come on, man, let's go. And you say, I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. It's not a problem of energy in the external sense. You've been eating pizza. It's not doing the math for you. 3 weeks later, she calls you back. You've been thinking about it. You got her picture up there. You're just crying yourself to sleep, and she calls you back. She says, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Could you see me tonight? All of a sudden, the boxes are flying out into the trash, right? You combed your hair for the first time in a month. And all of a sudden, the energy did what? You say, oh, you're exactly. No, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. Why? It's hard to put your finger on energy. But you know what it's like when you have it, and you know what it's like when you don't, and we have to conclude that there has to be more to it than just what you eat. In fact, you would have to say there even has to be more to it than sleep, because during those times when you felt nothing, you slept endlessly, and you still couldn't get your energy back. I want to take you to a story. It's in the Gospel of John, and Jesus is there talking to this woman. And she's there to get some water, and he sits down. And a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus says, well, would you give me a drink? The disciples, it says, has gone into town to buy some food. And the Samaritan said, well, you're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan, and, we really shouldn't be mixing like that. Our people don't like your people. And by the way, here's a good side thing for you. When you have energy, when you have passion in your life, you don't have time for small stuff. Boy, I gave you a gold piece there if you took it. You don't get drawn into every little nickel and dime battle. You don't need to make everyone else's petty thing your petty thing. You say, well, it was a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal back then, but it was a big deal for small-minded people. Jesus is like, hey, can we move past this Jew-Samaritan thing? In other words, when you have bigger passion, bigger vision for your life, you aren't drawn into every little small battle. That will save you a lot of energy, by the way. He's like, I don't have any energy for that. When you have passion in your life, you don't need all the other small stuff. And the stress and the things that stress other people out, they won't stress you out. I was thinking about it. I was trying to reflect. Certain things that over the course of my life I've had passion for. One of them, when I was young, I just had absolute passion for boxing. Absolute passion. I have no idea why, but I just saw it, I guess probably on TV or something, and all I wanted to do was to box. And I had so much passion for it that I would go to school. We walked to school. So I walked to school. And every sport I could play that you were allowed to play, I played, because that's what I loved to do. So it didn't matter whatever the sport was after school. If it was football or whatever, I would do that. And then after the football practice was over, I would walk home. And then I would change and run to the gym. I mean, you think about today, the kids, they drive everywhere. And I went back to see where I walked to school and then where I ran to the boxing gym. And it was exhausting thinking about all that I did. Then I went for a boxing workout, which is no small thing. And then I ran home from boxing, and I was exhausted thinking about it. But when I was doing it, this is what I'm trying to say, I didn't think twice about it. I never thought about asking for a ride. I never cared, because I was completely engrossed and passionate about what I was doing. Have you ever been there? There's nothing like it when you have passion. It gives you some energy from some other place. So Jesus is talking to this woman, and this is so good. Jesus says to her, will you give me a drink? She had the bucket. And she said, we're not supposed to associate. And she said, Jesus says to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you, you would ask him, and he would have given you living water. He's like, I'm going to introduce you to something. Jesus says, everyone who drinks this water, think of the well, everyone who drinks this water is going to be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, that water that I give them will be a spring welling up. In other words, he's saying this is what's that well is going to run dry, and you're going to be thirsty again and again. You're feeding this part, but there's some other part of you that needs to be fed, that needs to be watered. If you get this just will change everything for you. Some people, their whole focus is the well, that kind of water. In fact, later on in the story, Jesus, the disciples had gone in town to buy food, and they come back, and they're like, it's time to eat. And he's like, hey, I have food that you don't know anything about. Just like he was teaching this woman about water, he was teaching the disciples about food. He goes, I got food you know nothing about. What? The disciples, they were always behind the 8 ball. What? Did somebody slip him a burger? He goes, no. My food, can I say it this way? My fuel is to do the will of him that sent me. That's my fuel. You might need fuel. Anybody need energy? Anybody need passion? Passion to me is always connected to purpose. If you have something to get up for, if you have some purpose, if you can connect to your purpose, that's what gives you passion. Existing doesn't give you passion. Existing doesn't give you energy. Food doesn't give you energy. I mean, I get it in the limited sense. But fuel, the real inner driving force, is knowing that there's a reason, that there's purpose to your life, that God has you to do something. That's why I'm so concerned about the trend away from God. Because what's the fuel? Because after then you make some money, and then you get an education, and you do this, and then after a while, then what's the fuel? Where is it? It's a difficult thing, and I think people are pushing people towards a dangerous cliff where they're saying, you don't need God. And the reality is, you as a human being, you need something to fuel you. I think that's why there's alarming rates of depression. That's why there's alarming rates of all these other kinds of problems that people are having, emotional and internal problems. Why? Because they're pushing God out of the picture. I understand that there have been some poorly painted pictures of God. I get that. I spent most of my time trying to give people a different picture, hopefully somewhat better picture. But man, you don't, as we say, throw the baby out with the bathwater, because if you throw God out, what you're doing for a young person is you're throwing away their fuel, purpose and energy. Otherwise, what is the purpose? That's what they start to ask. They start to think, well, what is it all for anyway? When Jesus died, by the way, as an aside, it doesn't hurt to know that it's often referred to his death and all the events surrounding it as the passion. Why? Because you can engage in that when you have what? Passion. When you know there's a purpose for your life, there's a reason to get up today, that can turn the lights on for you. I think more of us need to stir and fan the fire on the inside. Did you know when the early church began in Acts, it says that they were all together. They were all together. These are all the followers. And this is what's referred to, as the Pentecost event, when the Spirit of God came and there were little flames, it says tongues, little flames of fire that came to rest on each one of them. A powerful symbol that each person had this fire that was going to burn on the inside. Man, there's nothing like when you have passion. I think the reason that so many people are struggling in life is because they've shut the door to the passion. Think about this. The passion is there. You have to open or you have to close to it. This is what's key. You access it or you close it down. Go back to the boyfriend thing, the girlfriend. It was there, but it got shut down. When something opens that channel up, the energy starts to flow. You start to feel it. You were offered a job. It was a job that you always wanted. All of a sudden, some little thing opens up on the inside of you, and it starts to flow. You start to feel this energy. Then all of a sudden, you learn it's taken from you. You don't have it anymore. It starts to restrict. It starts to close. But here's the thing. You get to ultimately control that valve. And the older you get, the more you learn how to control it. You learn how to not let external things that people do or say constrict the energy on the inside. Or as Paul said, greater is he that is within me than he that is in the world. So, what do? First thing is this. Every single day you wake up with gratitude. Wake up with gratitude. I'm here. There's a reason. There's a reason. Put a smile on your face. Say, there's a reason that I'm here. You may have had a horrible day the day before, right? But the sun comes up and you say, his mercies are new every morning. This is a brand new day. God has me here for a purpose. And you go like seek that purpose. You will feel it. And you gravitate to the things that give you energy. You'll know it. You ever say to somebody, man, how do you do that? I mean, the other day, I'm just a train wreck. Vicky's gone on a trip, and so I got Charlie, and as you saw, I didn't even remember her shoes, and but she's here, she's alive. That, to me, that's a victory, right? And she's relatively well fed, but it's a lot for me, and I know I'm a dunce for that, but man, I saw this lady in the line at the airport the other day, and she had dual strollers, 4 kids by herself, and I felt like this big, you know what I mean? And I was just trying to do whatever I could. And have you ever said to somebody, how do you do it? But here's the thing. The energy's there. They do it. I mean, they may make a joke or whatever, but they just go, I don't know, you just do it. Isn't that funny? Because the energy's there. And then you can go back and you talk to stories, and all of a sudden, how many stories do we have around here? It was like, oh yeah, I grew up in Westland in a 900 square foot house, and we had 7 kids, and every other friend that we have is like that. That's my story. And then at the parents, how did they do it? The energy is there. It's there. Jesus goes, I have a spring. It's eternal. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. You get to control the valve. You just can't let the world shut it down for you. You can't let disappointment, you can't let failure, you can't let all these other things shut it down. You just have to say, I got to open up that valve. It's significant that this story is at a well. It's important that you get it. The well can be in the driest place. It's all dirt and barren. But if you dig and you dig and you dig, you're like, wow, underneath here, there's an abundant supply of water. This is what Jesus was trying to say. I'm the well. You can go down deep. You just keep going in the driest place. That's why some people, you ever look at somebody and go, you shouldn't be that happy. Maybe you didn't say it out loud, but you did. You're like, well, look at that. You look at the mess you got yourself in. Look at this and look at that, and look what's not going right for you. And they're happy. It's a head scratcher. And they have passion. Passion's an internal thing. Jesus said, I've got this spring of living water. I tell you what, the last thing, it can grow too. Don't get a certain age and say, oh, well, those days, those are behind. I think it expresses itself differently. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying you're going to be running to the gym like I did when I was 12 or whatever. I think it expresses itself differently, but this is what's key. It's still there. The fire is still there. The fire to use your life to make a difference. The fire to do my Father's business, as Jesus said. That's the fuel you need to access every single day. When you want to shut down, when you want to close down, you got to say a prayer. You just need to put your knee on the ground or get into a quiet place and say, God, I know that you have me here for a purpose. And I am not going to let all this other stuff push me down. There is a lot, if you focus on it, that you could be negative about. And I'm not saying you don't get engaged in things that you need to get engaged in and make changes where they need to be, absolutely, of course. But you don't let that drain your energy. Rather, you let it fuel. Jesus dies on the cross. He's still full of energy. Huh? He wasn't mailing it in. I mean, we don't exactly know all the details, but he's carrying a cross. He's carrying this heavy, heavy cross till he can't carry it physically anymore. And they hand it to somebody else. Isn't that how you want to go out? Oh my God, I thought someone would at least blink. Yeah. Isn't that how you want to go out? Just stumbling and just dragging it and just taking it, every bit of that cross, every ounce of the calling that God had. Isn't that how you want to go out until you just collapse and someone else has to carry your coffin? That's how I want to go out, man. It's energy. It's not, you don't need more pizza, bro. I love pizza. You need more chutzpah. Is that a word? Is that a good one? Does that work? More chutzpah, less pizza. We can stand after that one. That's a good one. All right, let's stand. Come on. Now think, friends. Think. This story with Jesus and this woman, this is not an accident. This is to say something to us. He was saying to the woman, The real stuff you need is not just physical water. Of course, we all need physical water, but they're great parallels because when you're parched, you need a drink badly. Some of you, you need a drink today. And then as he gave the message to the disciples, he was like, it's not just food, you guys. It's not just food. It's doing. It's doing God's work. God has work for you to do. Look here, please. I'm not God's worker and you are an observer. That's the worst, most gross, sick thing that was ever perpetrated on the church. God has work for you to do at Ford and GM and the school and wherever you do your thing and in between and with your kids. You do God's work and you understand it to be God's work. That's what you do. And that's what gives you fuel. That's what gives you passion.